Hello, this is Barbara Gahn-Mueller, and I am just so delighted that you are here today. You know, all of us know an author or two, but how many of us know bestsellers? How many of us know that the bestseller can be created by a Midwest book review? Today, you're going to find out why, and you're going to find out how. Jim Cox, I am so honored to have you here.
Yeah, well, I'm you're one of my best cyber buddies and have been for more than 2 decades now.
At least, you know, you're an encyclopedia of book knowledge. Encyclopedia of book knowledge. Every time I say, have you had Midwest Book review your book? And they say no. I said, well, you're missing out. You've got to get there and get a book review by Jim Cox or his 89 reviewers. They were established in 1976, and he and Jim and late Professor John Oliger committed to promoting literacy, library skills, and small press publishing. And you're listening to peacepodcast.org. And I must tell you that Jim was on a few years ago and he was number 23. He now holds the record for the most views of any of my 131 podcasts. Why? Because he, as I said, he's an encyclopedia of knowledge for the book industry. And when you go to his reviews and his articles, they're all written by human beings. No ITs here. It's just a human being and a human book. And his extensive website is devoted to helping you write better, to help you publish more successfully. And so I'm going to ask him 3 questions today. And we're going to find out answers to 1, advice for anyone wanting to try their hand at reviewing a book. 2, advice for authors and publishers on how to get their books reviewed. And 3, a history of publishing from a long time ago to the digital age today. So Jim, welcome.
Somehow, since we're only going to be chatting for 20 minutes or so, I don't think we'll get around to publishing from Sumerian antiquity down to the digital age, but we'll try.
We'll try. And you know, the
Let's
most
begin with for people that would like to become reviewers or who would like a forum from which they can express their opinions about whatever it is they are reading. Well, all of my 89 reviewers are volunteers. And about a third of them are from academia, and the rest are just cab drivers, housewives, bibliophiles, dedicated bookworms. And we have a reviewer's guideline that we send to anybody that emails us and says, I'd like to be a reviewer. How do I go about doing it? The 3 things you have to do when you're a reviewer is be consistent. If somebody sends you a book, review it, but make sure always that you send them a copy of the review and some kind of notification. These days it's email, but a snail mail letter will work as well. But that confirmation notification email to accompany the review and explaining where your review will be published or posted, whether it's a blog on a website or whether in the old days a newspaper column or a magazine issue. But the second thing is the Midwest Book Review and you as reviewer do not guarantee the author or the publisher a positive review. What you guarantee is an honest review. And my advice to my reviewers and to the public at large is that if you are assigned to review a book and you don't understand the book, or for some reason you cannot, in good conscience, recommend that book to their intended readership, then your confirmation letter should explain your reasoning why. And incidentally, every once in a while, we get a thank you email from an author who took to heart the observations and opinions of the reviewer and created a better book. So, and you have to remember that there are two categories, two different kinds of book reviews: pre-publication and post-publication. Pre-publication are like the Library Journal or Publishers Weekly or and they have requirements. They don't want the published book. They need a manuscript or a pre-publication PDF file that they can review, and they want that material 6 months ahead of whatever a publishing date has been established for it. Post-publication reviews, and the Midwest Book Review is one of those, requires the published book, when it becomes available to librarians, booksellers, the general public, its intended readership. Okay. And you'll find post-publication reviews are like the TV shows that interview authors when they go on tour, because they need that physical book as a visual prop for the cameras. The same with the radio interviews that are done, but basically the book is not a show and tell item, but a not so subtle bribe for the broadcaster, the interviewer. And it just doesn't hurt to wave it around as you come and go from your interview site as a writer. But
and to have two different publications, pre-publication, and then once the book is finished. So how would an author know how to get their books to you? What would motivate you to review them?
I've got a nifty little trick that I'm going to share with your audience.
Yippee.
And this trick alone will be worth their while sitting through our conversation. Let's say you've written a romance novel. How in the world do you find reviewers for your romance novel? Here's the trick. Do a Google search, and in that search bar, put romance novel reviewers. And up will come a spread of book reviewers who focus primarily on romance novels. Let's say you've written a Civil War history nonfiction. Back to Google, that search engine. This time you put American Civil War history book reviewers.
Mm-hmm.
And up comes this list. And by the way, I just did it this morning to make sure my trick still works.
Uh-huh.
And up came this list of American Civil War history book reviewers. And one of them had this wonderful article that I'm going to steal from on how to write a history book. And it's a wonderful tutorial. But fantasy, science fiction, science fiction novels, book reviewers, and there you go.
Right. And
now there are other databases, one of which I've created for the Midwest Book Review website called Other Reviewers. And you click on Other Reviewers, it opens up the archive, and you go down the list. And because I've been around for now 48 years in September, it's a long list. It's a big database. The trick is you go down the list, and when you see one that looks thematically appropriate or possibly relevant, you click on it, you get zapped to that particular website. You read through that website, and you'll be able to determine if that reviewer or review website review source is thematically appropriate to your book, and if they are, what their submission guidelines are. Everybody has a little bit different in terms of submission guidelines. Ours are, especially if you're a self-published author or a new small press publisher, we have resources for you on our Midwest Book Review website. Just type in Google Midwest Book Review and you'll get there. Because like was mentioned in the introduction, we do not charge for our reviews. Our reviews are all free. And what makes that possible is that we are funded annually now from more than some 40 plus years now, with 2 annual foundation grants to promote literacy, library usage, and small press publishing. And that latter is the umbrella under which self-published authors come. The most we can permit authors and publishers who are grateful and want to support the cause and show their appreciation is that when they submit their books, they can make a contribution to our postage stamp fund. Long ago, my board of directors decided I wasn't going to be corrupted by postage stamps. I wasn't going to stuff my pockets with stamps and skip off to the Bahamas. But while postage stamp donations are always appreciated, they are never, ever required. It's just the only way we can allow you, to be a part of the Midwest Book Review.
And you know what I like about you is you said, I'd love to review the book, Older's Voices, send me the book. So you prefer to have the book in your hand so that you can review it.
Our guideline, we pay no attention to when a book is published. Doesn't matter if it was published in 2012 or 2024. Doesn't matter. We pay no attention to that. Our criteria for the Midwest Book Review is that when a book is submitted for review, it must be in print and available to librarians and the general public. That's it. And always include a cover letter with your contact information as the author or publisher or publicist, if you're a book publicist, so that we can send you a copy of that review and the confirmation notification email as to where it will have been published and posted by us. Then it's if you're a publicist or a publisher, it's your responsibility to notify the author accordingly. Just pass along a copy of the review and so forth. But every legitimate reviewer, every honest reviewer will always have far more submitted books than they possibly could have time or resources to cover. It's just the nature of the game. So I developed for the Midwest Book Review a safety net. For example, if the only reason your book did not get a review assignment was the fact that I get 30 titles a day, Monday through Saturday, from the publishing industry, and we can only do about a third of those. If the only reason your book didn't get a review assignment is that too many good books and not enough reviewers,
yes,
then we have an alternative that if you, as the author or the publisher, have a review from someone else and can obtain their permission for us to do so, we will run their review in your behalf and under their byline in one of our 9 monthly book review publications called Reviewer's Choice, so that at least your book and that review will be exposed to roughly 30,000 libraries and library systems throughout the United States and Canada.
But good advice. Jim, I love your newsletter. I get your newsletter every month. And I look forward to it because it's filled with ideas that I can use to help authors and myself to get my book out there.
Okay, we'll give a plug. It's called the Jim Cox Report, and it's a monthly column of tips, tricks, and techniques for authors and publishers, and changes and observations about the evolving publishing industry. Okay. It all began in Sumeria.
Yeah.
When people were writing books using a little wooden stick and a lump of wet clay. And then they moved on to papyrus and ink. And then they moved on from there to movable type. This guy named Gutenberg got this idea and launched the Renaissance.
Yes.
You know, most people think when they think the Renaissance, they think of these beautiful, gorgeous paintings, you know, and cathedral decorations and so forth. But it was the published book, printed book, that made literacy explode across Europe.
Thank God. I am so delighted that books teach us so much. You know, I look at books that I have collected, and I have bookloads of books. I have shelves full of books. And why? Because the knowledge within those books are so important for something that I may be working on now, or something that will help me advance my own career, or help me understand something that I'm really new at. Books are information that, you know, that you can hold on to and keep, and not have to always be searching on Google.
The book world, in terms of the publishing industry, is changing. We went from classic movable type that ran for the next 400 or 500 years into what's called the digital age. So now we have pixels on a screen instead of letters on a page. I'm 81 and old-fashioned. I still need the book in my physical hand, the texture of pages, the smell of a new title, and so forth. But this younger generation, they are equally comfortable with digital books and ebooks, Kindles, and so forth. But literacy is still critically important to being able to construct the kind of life that you would want and be able to finance or be able to imagine in the first place. You know, I grew up poverty, but I grew up with a really great community library that was in walking distance of my home.
Yes.
And it was there that I learned about the world, history, geography, anthropology, archaeology, you name it, poetry, everything from reality, escapism, fiction, to inspiring historical biographies and memoirs. It's all there in your public library.
You know, I have a little story to tell you.
Report, everyone I've done is archived on the Midwest Book Review website and is free if you want to subscribe to it. Just send me an email asking to be signed up.
Well, you probably have one of the best lists of authors anybody around in the world does have, because of your 9 different, I think it's 9, is it more?
Yeah, it's 9.
You have Book Watch, California Book Watch, Children's Book Watch, Library Book Watch, Reviewers Book Watch, and my favorite, the Jim Cox Report. I love the Jim Cox Report. I will drop everything to read the Jim Cox Report. Not only does he report on things that we need to know, but then he will give you a book review on something that he thinks is especially powerful and something that will teach us something. And last but not least, he identifies all of us who send him postage stamps. It's kind of like, we're your fan club, Jim. And you know, when
I haven't had to buy a postage stamp for the last 47 of the 48 years of the existence of the Midwest Book Review.
Well, aren't we lucky that postage stamps are still with us, and they're so beautiful. Every time I go to the post office, I say, show me your latest postage stamps, because the beauty of reminding, like I just have a whole of the John Lewis stamps, or the ERA. I keep those stamps because they're so beautiful, and then I send them to you.
And they get stuck on boxes.
Boxes. You know, in 2012, the wonderful Global eBook Award ceremony, we gave you the Lifetime Achievement Award, Jim. Yeah. And if I had another moment for 12 years later, I'd give it to you again. You have accomplished so much in your lifetime for the average author. And Jim, I don't know how you have been able to maintain your spirit, your love of books, and because each book brings something to you special, doesn't it?
And every author has a distinctive voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes through their writing. And there's not enough years in the average human lifespan to cover all the good books. And every year, thousands and thousands of new books are being published, especially when desktop publishing arrived and the self-published author came into their own. Really.
Uh-huh.
There are three reasons why, especially a self-published author or a mid-list author, needs a publicity program, a marketing program. Is that one, you want to make money if you're trying to do this for a living. And that only comes from sales. Two, you want to leave a legacy behind you. When you're not here anymore, your voice will be through the written word. And three, you might be driven by a cause or a need or a social issue, and you want what you have to say to read a particularly targeted audience now and in future generations from now. Publicity, for most of us who were self-published authors, is on a shoestring or even no string basis. So you need to take advantage of, learn about, and take advantage of all of the free or nearly free resources available to you to create an effective and successful marketing campaign. And when I say shoestring and no string, I mean it. All you've got is a garage with a few boxes of your books, and what do you do next? The Midwest Book Review, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are how-to books, and some of them are really great. And I've reviewed them all, believe me. And I'm also mentioned in a few of them. But the Jim Cox report begins with a commentary or an idea or a suggestion or a tip, trick, or technique. This thing is followed over the last few months with a quote of the month and a website of the month, thematically appropriate to the subject of reading, writing, and publishing and marketing. Then this is followed by my review of books on writing, on publishing, on marketing, or that are of intrinsic interest to bibliophiles, librarians, dedicated book lovers of the world. And then this is followed by a list of the great people who have donated to our postage stamp fund in kind or cash.
That's right. Jim,
I
looked at your Midwest Book Review, and it makes me appreciate all of the authors that you get the privilege of knowing through their books. And it's a really lovely family that you've created. And that's why I do peacepodcast.org, because I want to keep the peacemakers alive in the minds of the people who are reading books, in the minds of people who may be watching a movie. Like Cillian, when he said, I give this Oscar to all the peacemakers out there. Well, I use that. If I find something that somebody says, I'll use it to move my Peace podcast forward, as an author should be doing too. You've just reviewed Older's Voices, and we're now reviewing AARP because it's a perfect place for that book to be reviewed. So we find the avenue to the audience that we're trying to motivate to understand about getting older is more fun than you realize when you listen to 29 different voices and Jim read the book and we'll be reviewing it in the June issue of his magazine. So it's really important that you have that courage to call people, to send them your book, to let them know why you wrote the book. So Jim, we're about the end of this podcast, and you've given us so much valuable information. I went on MidwestBookReview.org and I saw lists of things that I could ask. I mean, how do you write a news release? How do you write a cover letter?
Our website is massive, and it was created with volunteer help to be a do-it-yourself, DIY resource. Authors wanting to write their best and get published, or publishers wanting to create marketing strategies and profitably publish, and for librarians and the general public who otherwise may never be aware of this particular book that they should read. If, and our all of our reviews of how-to books are chronicled on our website. All of the issues of the Jim Cox report, all of the issues of our 9 monthly book review publications, they're all there. And there's additional resources. Some of them are technical, some of them are informational, some of them are reference kinds of things. Don't try to do it all in one sitting. It's like getting an ice cream headache. Sit down at our website 10 to 15 minutes a day and just go exploring. And by the way, if you see a review of a book, you say, gee, I'd like to get my hands on that book. The beautiful thing is you can just take the title, author, publisher, ISBN number off of that review, trot down to your local community or public library and ask the librarian to get it for you for free through the Interlibrary Loan Service.
Think about that. We have the resources at our fingertips if we go and find out, as Jim said, the author, the ISBN number, and the name of the book, and go to your library and they'll get it for you. And with that, I thank you, Jim Cox. You have been such a hero to so many authors. And you were correct about going to MidwestBookReview.org. I think that's the website, correct?
Yep.
And
MidwestBookReview.com.
Oh, MidwestBookReview.com. So when you go to MidwestBookReview.com, you will see all of the resources that Jim has identified. You will also see the published books that he has recently written reviews for, right, Jim?
Correct.
And are they categorized also?
And
are they more by
I
date?
have been accused of not having so much as a author client list as having a fan club.
You do have that.
And that's what I started off to have. It's been a joyride. It's been the pride of my life. I still come in 2 or 3 hours every morning into this little office. And although at my age now, my daughter and her husband have taken over much of the day-to-day, nuts and bolts of the operation, I still reserve the right to answer my own phone in person.
And I'll tell you the truth. I called him and he said, hi. And I said, hi, Jim, it's Barbara Mueller in Santa Barbara. And there he was right on there. And you are listening to peacepodcast.org. I'm an author. I was a book publicist president in Southern California. I've worked with authors for the past 40 years, it seems like. But the best part is a book. When I get a book, I get excited. And I know you do too. And that's why I send my books to Jim. And did you hear he said it didn't matter if your book was published 10 years ago, they'll still review it if you haven't gotten a good review. I love that. And so, Jim, do you have a last word? And then I'm going to thank people for joining us today.
What I recommend is that you do whatever makes you happy and whole. And if it's involved with a book, so much the better.
Yes.
And until next time, I bid you all goodbye, good luck, and good reading.
Good luck and good reading. And I'm Barbara Gunn-Mueller, and you're listening to peacepodcast.org. And if you're a budding author and you haven't written that first word yet, then you have all these resources to help you. But I think Jim summed it up when he said, what makes you happy? I know my passion is what keeps me writing. My passion for the subject that I'm writing about, which is always about peace. And you're listening to peacepodcast.org. And we hope that you'll join us and bring a friend. Maybe you have some friends who've been wanting to be an author and come on Peace Podcast and join us and listen to us. Thanks, Jim. You've been great.